For our third presentation, I'd like to welcome Kate Edwards from the Association of Canadian Publishers to the stage. Kate's going to tell us about the Canadian Bookshelf Project.
Thank you, Terry. I'm very pleased to be here today on behalf of the Association of Canadian Publishers to tell you a little bit about Canadian Bookshelf, a landmark collective marketing project funded by the wonderful OMDC. And it's a landmark project both for the ACP and for the broader Canadian book sector. The book publishers in the room will have to bear with me. They've heard this before, but I'm going to give you a quick overview of the project. Is the slide changing? Oh, okay. So to set the stage for the project, I'll talk a little bit about Canada's book marketplace. Canadian readers have a huge selection of books to choose from. There are almost 700,000 English language titles actively distributed in Canada today. That doesn't include hundreds of thousands of more books that are available through international online retailers. The vast majority of books that are distributed in Canada are imported from the United States and the UK. Print book sales are concentrated within a small number of retailers and a small number of titles. And if we look to ebooks, this effect is magnified. Compared to a bricks and mortar store where there's a huge number of books on display, the number that can be featured on an e-retailer's site is quite limited. So this makes the challenge of discoverability even more of a challenge. We do know that there's a strong demand for Canadian books. People want to read books by Canadian authors, and that's among general readers as well as specialist groups like educators and librarians. So we kept coming back to this question that you'll see up on the screen: can we make it easier to discover Canadian books? And the answer to that question, if we fast forward through the nitty-gritty business planning and fundraising and publisher outreach and development, is Canadian Bookshelf, which I present here up on the screen. The project is, at a basic level, a database. There are almost 50,000 titles currently listed. It's the largest publicly available collection of Canadian books and authors that's ever been assembled, which is something we're very proud of. And in addition to the title listings, there's a rich editorial program. So you'll see, perhaps you can see links to a blog, guest columns, interviews, and contests and other features. And this is actually a screen cap from last week's homepage. It switches over every week. The site launched in public beta in June, and early response has been really positive. We have, as I said, the number of books continues to grow. We started out with about 35,000 titles, and we're now up to 50. And we've continued to build, test, and refine the different project components. I'll talk a little bit about our project management team. We do have an active Canadian Bookshelf task force made up of publishers. Some of them are here today. And they've worked closely with Turner Riggs, which is an Ottawa-based consulting firm, to bring the project to where it is today. And we have a very big team of developers and designers and social media experts and editors working on the site. So I don't have a video, but I do have a sample of the site. And when I was trying to decide which book to pick, I looked no further than our wonderful host, Terry Follis. This is his latest book, The High Road, in case you don't know. And it's a sample of what you can find on Canadian Bookshelf. There is a description of the book. If it was a live page, I could pull down different panels for editorial reviews, an excerpt from the first chapter, and we also have a series of sharing tools that users can interact with the site. So users can rate the book, they can add tags, they can add the book to reading lists. I'm not sure if you can read it, but on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that this book has been listed one time, so one of our users has added it to their own list. And what else can I say about this? There are also tools available to share the information, to push it out to other social media platforms. So if I wanted to let my friends who read Terry's first book, The Best Laid Plans, know that he's published a sequel, I can email a link to a friend, I can post that to their Facebook page, or send them a tweet. We don't sell directly from the site. We didn't want to get into the business of book distribution and sales, but we do offer a series of retail links to visitors who are interested in purchasing books, sort of using Canadian Bookshelf as a channel to do that. So you'll see here that the book is available through Indigo and Amazon, independent sellers, and also as an ebook through Kobo. And we have functionality built in that regularly queries those retailers, so links will only appear if the title is available. So right now we're looking to do a full release of the site this spring, and along with that release will be a gradual rollout of an advertising and sponsorship program. Our marketing plan to date, which we also have implemented with the beta launch. Actually, I'm not sure that I mentioned that. That was part of the last slide. The site is in public beta right now. Anyone who's interested in visiting can go to CanadianBookshelf.com. It's open to the public, and you can set up an account. But we have looked to build our audience first and establish the project's reputation as an authority on and destination for Canadian books. And I'm almost done. I just want to say thank you again to the OMDC for its generous support of the project. And they, along with the Department of Canadian Heritage, provided early funding to us. And it would not have been possible without that support. So thank you. And that is the Whirlwind Tour. I'm happy to answer any questions and invite you all to visit. Yes?
Is a book written by a Canadian author and published in the United States or Europe considered Canadian?
For the purpose of this project, yes. When we were setting out to develop it, we wanted to have a collection of Canadian authored books. So it would not be a great user experience if someone is looking for a book by a particular Canadian author, but if it happens to be published by a US publisher and they don't find it on Canadian Bookshelf, we're not going to keep those users. So it's all Canadian authored books that are
And
featured.
how does one, if one does not find one's book on the list, how does one go about getting it on the list?
You should talk to your publisher. The books that appear are, there's no cost to publishers to have their books listed. They are required to submit a metadata file to BookNet Canada, which is one of our other partners on the project. And there's a lot of technical stuff that we could go into. But it's, as long as the publisher is submitting metadata to BookNet and has certain requirements met, then the books will appear.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Hi, are there any plans to integrate this with the library system or perhaps BiblioCommons?
We haven't talked to BiblioCommons yet. We are working towards having another layer of annotations for school and library users that are based on specialist information for those groups. But we're really, to date, we've been focused on the general public-facing site. I don't see any more hands, so thank you very much for your time, and please visit CanadianBookshelf.com.
Thank you, Kate. What an outstanding presentation that was. Thank you for the unexpected infomercial. That was great. Thanks so much. So check out that site, the Canadian Bookshelf Project. Our fourth and final presentation, I'd like to invite Lalita Krishna from InSync Video to join us and talk about Project Chocolocate. Sounds interesting.
Thanks, Terry. The first thing I did was to check whether there was chocolate for dessert. And there isn't. So this is the closest you're going to get to your chocolate until you download our iPhone app, which will tell you how close you can be and where the nearest chocolate store is. So just a little background. I'm a filmmaker. I make documentaries, and a lot of my documentaries deal with children and global issues. And it was through one of my documentaries that I heard about children involved in the cocoa trade. And obviously that intrigued me as a filmmaker, and I wanted to make a documentary about the subject. So we started research in 2007 and came out with a bunch of statistics about chocolate, which were quite incredible. And I realized right away that this had to be an interactive project, because if I wasn't going to make this interactive with the most commercial, project that I could ever be dealing with, I was never going to do that. So I just wanted to move on and figure out ways in which we could connect with the audience and make this interactive. So once we decided that we were going to make it interactive, we realized that our approach had to be a little different, because when you do a documentary, it's kind of a storyteller's vision. The direction you go is one way. You are telling a story and you're communicating with an audience, and your audience is passive and listening to your story and being engaged in that process. But when you're doing something interactive, it's a two-way process. You've got to figure out, it has to be interactive. You've got to get back information and make it as engaging as possible, but it's a two-way or multiple communication. So we started there. We started with users. We had to go in and find out what people wanted, because my idea of the whole interactive was I'd start off with a website, I'll put up chocolate recipes, and we'd get chocolate stories, we'll collate and collect chocolate stories, maybe we'll find out how cacao is being used around the world, the history, anything that we couldn't put in the documentary that we accumulated during research, it would all go into a website. Well, we were wrong. That's not what people wanted. When we did our focus group studies and users, all people wanted was, how can I find chocolate? Tell us where we go, how could we get that chocolate fix? And we realized that the one way that we can tell people how to locate chocolate is mobile. We had to go mobile, and we had to create a mobile app which would help people find their chocolate. And that's where our Chocolocate project began, which was all on 3 platforms, on mobile, website, and on TV.